Hi there, Mike Perez with Mastering the Young Band at MikePerezBand.com. This video is going to focus on the flow studies from my Band Daily Skills, which is a new resource that I have just launched. Flow studies are based on Vincent Schickowitz's famous flow studies from his trumpet method book. Band directors through the past few decades have figured out that these are wonderful exercises and warm-ups for your students to play in band class, every band class. The flow studies, are written in cut time, so you want to make sure you know that. I typically do them at tempo 72. When you're playing the flow studies, students tongue and then they slur through. And one of the main purposes of these flow studies are air flow. You want your students to connect their notes, to push their air and flow each note, not stopping between. What you want to avoid with your students is where they're kind of doing that a little bit of crescendo each note. They need to push their air. They need to move their vowels, their keys, their slides quickly on the note changes. So it's a quick note change, but it's a smooth sound. Those can seem counterintuitive to the young band student. What you don't want is real gummy fingers. You want them to snap into place in order to get that smooth connected sound. One of the things I love about flow studies too is how it builds your students' range. Sometimes in the band warm-up, it can be challenging to build range in an efficient way that isn't just scales or technique. Flow studies are a fantastic way of building your students' range, especially up higher, not as much down low. I would argue, this is going to be a little controversial, but I would argue that flow studies are as effective on brass flexibility as brass lip slurs are. I know some are going, oh no, there's nothing that can replace brass lip slurs, and brass lip slurs are really important. But what I have found is in the young band setting, flow studies work on very similar concepts as that. It works on that flexibility and partial change, but just in a different way. What I tell my students is, hey, lip slurs are still important. Work on those in your private lessons or in your practice, but in band class, we're going to be doing flow studies instead of lip slur warm-ups. And of course, the great thing about the flow studies is your woodwinds are matching that range and playing along with them. They don't have to do supplementary or different exercises than the brass players. You'll notice on my Band Daily Skills, I have the percussion working on accent and tap exercises. Make sure they do notes and cut time. And then at the upper flow studies, which we'll get to in a moment, percussion then switched to 16th note, or I'm sorry, to flams at that point. You'll notice halfway through the page, it switches to a different key. So it goes to the key of E flat instead of B flat. That way students can do a flow study, a shorter flow study in an upper range. I used to do flow studies that would just keep going all the way up to their upper concert F or even higher. And those exercises started getting so long, students would just run out of air. So my solution to that was to take everything up to concert E flat. So instead of D, they go D, so they start higher. That way they can work on their upper range flow and have a shorter exercise. You'll also notice on your student sheets, as well as the conductor score, there are fermatas above the top notes. What I like to do a lot, especially when introducing a line, is I like to hold the top note for 4 counts, 2 beats of rest, and then come in. So the first line with the fermata would sound like this. As you're building that range and you're holding that top note, that gives students a chance to sit on that note, get more comfortable with it, listen, look at their tuner, and adjust as necessary. I use those fermatas quite a bit throughout the year. I would say, okay, students, add in the fermatas. We're going to hold for 4, 2 beats of rest. Those fermatas are written in percussion too. It does take percussion a little getting used to when to stop on those fermatas and when to come back in, but after some repetition, they will get that. Also, make sure that if you have the buzz extension resistance pieces, the burps for your brass players, have the woodwinds percussion play a line while the brass are burping. Have the your section leaders play a line while the band airs and fingers, and then have them repeat. There's just like your long tones or concert F, there are a lot of different ways you can vary up your flow studies. You can even add articulation or rhythms to it. Some people like to add 16th notes. Da 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 da. You can add different rhythms to that, and that way you can add some articulation into the flow study as well. So if you have not joined the army of people that are starting to use flow studies in their band ensembles, I really encourage you to do it. Like I said, I have had flow studies replace lip slurs with my band, and I'm seeing fantastic results for my band. So check it out, try it out, those flow studies in my band daily skills resource.